I'm delighted to see all of you as we gather to formally launch the new academic year. I'm excited to welcome the class of 2016, as well as our incoming transfer students. First-year students and transfer students, would you just rise so we can welcome you? I look forward, please be seated now. I look forward to meeting you in the atrium, in the plaza, in the library, in the cafeteria, in the art gallery, maybe even in the gym or in my office, where you can take advantage of one of my open Fridays. I do want to urge you to take the opportunity to share with me your goals, your dreams, and yes, your concerns as you start on your journey to what I know will be strong academic achievements here at York College. At this time of year, it is also my fond duty to welcome back all our faculty colleagues who are returning after what I hope was a restful and productive summer break. The summer in the academic calendar is the traditional time for faculty to travel, to continue to do research, scholarship, and creative productivity, to find time to renew the intellectual and spiritual tank in order to be ready for the challenges of the academic year ahead. I trust that all of our almost 200 faculty, full-time faculty, have taken the gift of the summer to recharge and hope that you return renewed and ready for another productive year. A very special welcome back to those few faculty members who were away for a semester or for a year on well-deserved study leaves. We know that you're really refreshed. I saw your faces. I've seen some of you already, and I can see the refreshment in your faces, and I can hear it in your voices. I do hope that you will find venues to present your work not only to our colleagues, our faculty colleagues, but to our students as well. So a special welcome back to Professors Vasquez, Swoboda, Jerry McNeil, Stephen Fernley, Dana Fusco, and also to Dr. Linda Herrera, who was on a special Fulbright leave in Spain. We really are glad that you took the time off, and we're glad you're back. A few of our faculty who were not on sabbaticals did take time to travel abroad, and I heard a couple of trips that were taken to Moldova, to Cuba, to Cape Town, South Africa, or to do clinical service in Bogota, Colombia. Others of you were right here in New York, in our libraries, or in the labs, in the tunnels, and in the waterways. And some of you were even on the street corners of Queens playing music as part of your summer. So wherever your work took you, for research and for teaching and scholarship or service, we're really delighted to have you back. This year, we have a small cohort of very valuable new faculty who have come to join us. I just want to mention them. I know that the provost will introduce them formally, but I just want to mention my welcome to Professors Margaret Alexander, Professors Heather Gibson, Professors Claudette McFarquhar, who are all joining the permanent faculty in the nursing. I also want to especially acknowledge, because it was so late in occurring and it wasn't as seamless as we would like it to be, those substitute individuals who were around and available to come in and spend the semester with us to help with our teaching. Professor Di Bonaventura, Professor Williams, Mr. Adams, Professor Mark, Professor Tillman, and Professor Brown. We also say farewell to folk who have served long and hard and well at this institution. And while they are not in the room, clearly because they have started their retirement, I do want to acknowledge the following individuals: Professor David Ernst, Professor Colleen Clay, Professor Che Huang, and Professor Laura Fishman. We wish them health and happiness in their retirement. During the summer, we also had our share of sad news, starting with the loss of our President Emeritus, who died in August, Mr. Milton Basson. President Basson led York through tumultuous times. During the times of fiscal crisis in the 1970s in New York City, he was our steady leader. He rallied students, faculty, staff, and external community to keep York open, and he led the building of this campus that we enjoy today. His widow, Mrs. Bernice Basson, wanted me to convey her deepest thanks to the college community for all of the acts of kindness to the family during their difficult time. Also at York, we lost a friend who was still working here at York as our Veterans Counselor, Mr. Herman Wright. So many of us knew him well. He was a fixture, is what I think. He was a member of the counseling staff. He was a member of one of the hardest working committees of the college, the Committee on Academic Standards. Unfortunately, after a very brief illness, Mr. Wright died also at the end of summer. We really feel that loss here. We also acknowledge a former nursing professor, Pearl Skeet Bailey Franklin, and Renwick Jackson, an early York administrator. We learned of their death recently, and because all of these individuals made lasting contributions to the lives of our students and to our institution, I ask that we pause for a minute, for a moment of silence in their collective memory as you think about the relationship you might have had with them and hold on to their legacy. Thank you. Let me now turn to a brief review of last year and talk a little bit about our goals, although I'm really going to invite the audience, students included, to go to the website and to spend a little bit more time than is allowed here to take a look at our goals. It can be a little bit dense, yes, but take it in small doses and see where you, as a member of the student body, or member of the faculty or staff, may have a contribution to make. But I did want to just highlight 3 or 4 or 5 of our top achievements of last year. And the first is really around our academic programs. During last year, we were fortunate to have the reaccreditation or baseline accreditation of some of our major programs. They include the clinical lab science, or generic nursing, or teacher education, and our physician assistant program. All of these programs concluded successful accreditations during this year. Also, academic program reviews were concluded in quite large numbers, which meant that not only was work done here at the campus, but we had outside evaluators who came in, colleagues from similarly situated disciplines, to validate what we are doing. So in the mathematics and computer sciences, in foreign languages, in humanities and ESL, in earth and physical sciences, in biology and the library, program reviews were completed. This positions us all to do further growth here at York. It positions us for expansion, for growth, and for rebranding. The second top achievement had to do, for me, with student research and faculty engagement with the guiding of student research. As you know, under the guidance and leadership of Provost Griffith, we have been expanding our undergraduate research beyond the traditional scope of our sciences, which has always been good and strong, but across all of the disciplines. So with the vision that was established by the provost, with execution on the part of Dr. Nath, who took ownership for this last year, and with a broad cooperation among our faculty, we really continue to develop our intentional co-curricular activities that has been a hallmark for us. Last year, in the gymnasium, 223 students presented their last academic year, meaning in April, right? 223 students presented their poster presentations. They were supported by 45 faculty mentors. And those of you who were there know the buzz that was created in that room. It was an exciting day, not only for our students and our faculty, but for the visitors who came. One of the highlights for me was the fact that we had some visitors who came from as close by as Queensborough Community College, and we had a faculty member who was a graduate of York, who is now a faculty member at Queensborough, but who came to hear her students who are now here, having transferred to Queensborough, present their poster presentations. So undergraduate research is very much alive and thriving at York. My last point on the matter of achievements will be related to fundraising. And it has to do with the fact that this year we really reached a benchmark for ourselves. Fundraising for us is a new activity. But under the leadership of Vice President Swerin, who joined us 2 years ago, and I think I heard that this was the actual day, Dolores, so thanks for joining us on that day. During last year, we achieved a $1.162 million fundraising goal. It was higher by 37% of what we had achieved the year before. So we really stretched, if you will. And indeed, a lot of those pledges are coming not only from corporate individuals, but as well from faculty, some retired, some current faculty, and also in honor of faculty. And so I really want to thank our donors. And in your program today, there is a full list of faculty donors. But I want to also acknowledge a few people who might be in the room who are faculty donors, who have been really giving, first of all, of their time and talent in the early years, and now they're giving of their treasure. And I want to acknowledge Dr. Waldman, Dr. Che Wong, the gift in behalf of Dr. Eleanor Bornstein, Bernard Armstrong, and gifts that have been given in honor of both Dr. Schlein, Dr. Lewis, and of course, in memory of Professor Kenneth Adams. We are really grateful to all our donors, and as I said, a full list is included in the program, and a little bit of applause for our donors, if you don't mind. So as we look to the goals for next year, as I said, I really do want you to take a up close and personal look. I'll just sort of list them all, the top 10, fairly quickly. You know, we're always looking to work to balance our budget. It's been a little bit of a tricky action over the last couple of years, so it stays as our #1 priority. We will meet our enrollment targets. As it turns out, we know that we have already met them because we have already gotten the numbers in place for the fall. We want to continue to increase our fundraising revenue. We want to, of course, continue to keep our students here, especially our first-year students. We've been doing very well over the last few years, each year inching up 2 or 3%, so that last year we're at about 75% retaining of our first-year students. We want to do a little bit better. We want to continue to increase our graduation rates of students so that they do leave us within 4 to 6 years completing their degree. We will, I am sure, complete successful social work accreditation. We will, I'm sure, complete a successful Middle States periodic review. We hope we can finish our charter review. That's a very big project that we have taken on over the last 3 years. We do hope to complete that. We do want to continuously improve the college's image internally and externally. And we will work at redesigning our advisement structure. You will remember last fall, I charged the committee on retention and graduation rates. I now have the work of that committee, and some of those goals, some of those recommendations will indeed be considered and will be executed this year. As I look into the future, though, I sense some optimism. We have been able to feel that as we look at 2012, 2013, we have a few indicators of success. Those indicators of success have buoyed me because I've seen the arrival of our freshman class. I've seen the tenacity of our returning students. I've seen the transfer students who have completed a degree at a community college or who have put some credits, earned some credits at some other institution. I see the tenacity that you are bringing to York because you want to complete the leg of the journey. I'm really inspired by our returning students who have overcome some obstacles and who are now beginning to see the end of the road, that successful getting of that baccalaureate degree. I'm encouraged by the cardinal spirit of our faculty and staff who are determined to help you students cross the finish line. But you know that you must run your leg of the relay, and you must run it well, and you must run it to completion. I am sure, of course, that my optimism is aided a little bit by the good help that we have gotten from the state and our governor. He had made a commitment to continue to support higher education, public higher education, and he's lived up to that commitment. But it's really the students, I believe, that have really given me the sense of buoyancy. It's the class of 2016. It starts with you. You are 1,107 strong. There are about 174 students who have come in through the SEEK program. You have come from different institutions across the 5 boroughs and, of course, across the world. Our top leaders in high schools now include Forest Hills, Richmond Hill, John Adams, Thomas Edison, Hillcrest, but we get many students from Brooklyn and from the Bronx and from Manhattan, and even a few from Staten Island as well. When we look at, again, why I feel a sense of optimism, I also get the sense of focus from our transfer students. We have about 900 transfer students. So this optimism starts with you. Some of you have already declared a major. You may have chosen biology, nursing, English, performing arts, accounting, psychology. But then there are some who are as yet undecided, and that is not all bad. It gives you an opportunity to explore. And we know that you, our freshmen and our transfers, are ready to meet us in the classroom. Because as you come to us, we see that you're coming with more improved high school averages. And while we know you're going to have to work very hard to meet the standards that our faculty will put in front of you, we know that you come with a solid base. And so as you think about your arrival here, I sense a can-do spirit in our freshmen. I sense that can-do spirit because I had an opportunity to see some of you early on in March or April at the open house when you were making your decisions and you had very focused questions, you had wide-ranging questions, and you had your parents or your significant others or some supporters with you. And so I know that you come to us with a focus from home and with a partnership from home, and I know that you are ready for this journey. We ask that you put your shoulder to the wheel and that you work with your faculty to make your dreams come true. But my optimism is also supported by our York team. That's really demonstrated a spirit of cooperation that, frankly, I really have enjoyed seeing developing. We had a successful enrollment and registration period. We achieved our numeric numbers, our numeric goals. Our current head count, yes, I know, stands at about 8,400, and I'm sure they're all in your classes. All 8,400 of them are probably sitting in your classes right at this not at this very moment, but I know the classes look large and the hallways are crowded, but we have indeed kept our doors open, and we did do a little bit better than we thought we would do with first-year students. They were ready. They had been tested, they met the necessary benchmarks, and so we accepted them. And despite some significant changes this year in personnel and our inability at this point yet to replace some significant folk who left, the process seemed to have come together very nicely in a way that I personally think I had not seen before. I want to take time to note that and to thank the people who were involved, all of the offices, and I'm sure to leave someone out when you start to name names. But I want to mention the Financial Aid Office, Student Development, Counseling, the Admissions Office, Bursar, Registrar, the Men's Center, the Women's Center, the SEEK Program, Career Services, the Health Center. Did I mention Advisement, Testing, College Now, S3, Scholarship Office? In fact, the collaboration was even broader than that. It included all of the academic offices, all of the staff in the academic offices, your secretaries, your college assistants, your faculty who were here during the summer. So I do want to say a very, very heartfelt round of thanks to everyone who, from my perspective now, you may have your own stories, but from my perspective, I saw a real spirit of collaboration, even though we didn't have everything perfect, and we seem to have brought our students in with a sort of seamlessness, which was remarkable. So thank you, everyone who was involved in that process. A third source of my optimism is related to faculty leadership. As you're aware, early on I mentioned that we have a very small cohort of incoming new faculty, not the larger numbers that we had been privileged to experience in 2008 and 9 and 10 and maybe even in 11. But my optimism has to do with the change that is occurring at the departmental and college-wide level with faculty assuming prominent leadership roles. That is where the action is this year, and that action is what will lead us to growth and vibrancy for our institution. So I want to acknowledge the new chairs. I want to say that we welcome you to this leadership role. We will be there to support you. I want to mention, while this one is not brand new, he took over sort of in the middle of the way, and he's still a little bit new, so I want to acknowledge Tim Amrine, want to acknowledge Dr. Martin Atangana, Dr. Emily Davidson, Dr. Olajide Oladipo. Again, he was not new this year, but he was elected in his own right. I want to welcome back and acknowledge Professor Borose, Dr. Tim Paglione, new this year, and Dr. Lillian Kaplan, who was just elected in the last couple of days to assume the role of chair of the Occupational Therapy Department. I also want to acknowledge, of course, the outgoing chairs, Dr. Andrea Krause, Dr. Laura Fishman, who is going off into retirement, Dr. Robert Brogna, Professor Mary Jo Kronecker, and Dr. Stanley Schleifer. We know that this work is work that you choose to do, and we know that it is a sort of different kind of role, stepping out of just the professorial role. We appreciate it. Without you in those roles, York goes no place, so we thank you for stepping forward. At the college-wide level, I want to just say thank you to Dr. Farley Moyer, who is stepping down in his leadership role as faculty caucus, and I want to congratulate Dr. Teresa Rooney. I look forward to working with her. At the curriculum committee level, there's also change, and maybe I need to amend something I said earlier, that the Committee on Academic Standards may be the hardest working committee. Maybe it's really the Curriculum Committee that's the hardest working committee. We could have a nice little argument about that. But this year, Dr. Susan Letney, who has so ably and steadily and gracefully led that work for some years, is stepping down, and Dr. Weber Zion will step in. Other important roles across the college, I know of a few. I may have left something out, but please forgive me, and I will pick it up next time. But Dr. Joseph is going to be taking on the honors program. I know that Drs. Paglione, Chirico, and Acker will continue to work on Middle States. That's a critical program and work for us. Dr. Chirico will continue to lead the CUNY Pathways Project, and Dr. Linda Barley will lead the Charter Review. And we do hope that by the end of this academic year, that we will have something to bring to the Senate for discussion and for action on the long-awaited review of our charter. With regard to student leadership, and you will hear from student government leader in a minute, our student government looks pretty alert, pretty vibrant. I have been able to have some conversations with them. Quite a new crew of students, a few who have some experience from last year. I spent a little time with them at their retreat. It was very well organized, very well emceed, very well focused with a theme. And so I have a lot of optimism about the work they will do. But more than the optimism, the first two meetings that were critical to start the year, the curriculum committee, they had their representatives there, and an auxiliary meeting, which unfortunately I had to miss, but they had their representatives there in sufficient numbers so that we could meet quorum and get the work done. So again, my optimism, yes, good, is really being borne out already with our students. Finally, my last word is on facilities. Those of you who are loyal readers of the New York Times and have been reading all summer, you will have seen some beautiful articles and even more spectacular pictures of a couple of fabulous buildings within the CUNY family. Last year, it was John Jay's. This year, in the last couple of weeks, there's been coverage of the Fitterman Hall building, which is opening at BMCC, and also the wonderful library and classroom building that's opening up at Bronx Community College. So we at York are still dreaming and still planning for our academic village and conference center. You've seen some of the pictures of the design. You've been engaged in some of the conversation about what the rooms will look like. But we are looking for that 166,000 square feet academic village and conference center, which will house our School of Business, which will provide student activity spaces for as well as offices for our enrollment management functions. But that is still in the works. We don't have it yet. We will be going to Albany this year to lobby for the $225 million that we will need to build that building, but it is very much in the making. But while that is in the making, we really need to continue to do what we need to do here with our current facilities. And it's in that regard that I want to thank the Office of Administrative Affairs, led now under Mr. Slosky, reporting, of course, to VP Ron Thomas. They've really taken some ownership lately on some of the nitty-gritty issues that face us every day. And I'm hoping that they're going to be able to sustain it, but at least they've shown me at least a good start. Not everywhere, because I've gotten a few emails already that some things aren't quite where they need to be. But I do want to say to that office that the recent reorganization of Office of Administrative Affairs has resulted in a boost in morale with direct impact on productivity and pride of work. I hope we will continue to see these changes. The supervisors, the custodians have been trained. Information is being shared. They're being given opportunities to express their point of view as to how work should get done. And we're beginning to see some changes, not uniformly every day, every minute of the day, but most of the time. Some changes in the public areas, in the restroom areas, in the classroom, in the corridors, in the library, etc. You know, I believe that some areas have been refurbished in the academic core, in the fitness center, in the multipurpose room, in the performing arts spaces, and in the women's center. Other changes will happen in due course, but I did think it appropriate for me to acknowledge the work of that team. It is not easy work by any chance, and to encourage all of them to continue to maintain what we seem to be starting for this academic year. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to wish us the very, very best year. I want to ask you to commit to working shoulder to shoulder to turn the optimism that I feel at this convocation into tangible results. I know we're capable of producing it. I thank you, and I wish you all, students, faculty, colleagues, a very, very productive year. I'd now like to ask Ms. Shirley Jackson, our Student Government President, to come to the podium to bring greetings. I think Shirley is in the audience.
Administration, faculty, students, as president of Student Government 2012-2013, and on behalf of my fellow senators, we are so happy to see you. I stand here humbled and honored to speak at the official start of the 2013-2012 academic year, a year that I know is going to soar through the heavens beyond anybody's wildest imagination, because we at Student Government are thinking bold and big. We are thinking dynamic. So get used to faculty and administrators coming to those meetings and seeing a bunch of student government senators sitting there waiting for you. And hopefully we won't have to wait too long, because this is a new day. We are on board. But before I go any further, I want all of you to put a face to the we. Ladies and gentlemen, the student government body of 2012-2013. And I would like everyone to take a good look at every single one of them and me and hold us accountable. Hold us accountable because we are the elected officials of all of the students. It is our responsibility as senators on student government to come to that table and represent you, the students' interests, to the best of our ability. It is our responsibility to mentor the young students, to mentor the new students, the transfer students, and make you feel welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we are thinking bold, big, and dynamic, and we have an agenda. Our agenda for 2012-2013 is Project ER, a project that will help to retain and engage York students. But I want to let you know we cannot do this without partnering with administration, faculty, and the staff. We need you. We are asking you right here today to help us, help all the students become more engaged. Because when students are engaged, retention will go up, and it will help to lead to a timely graduation. And that's what we need more of here at York College. Now, I just want to let you know that my tenure as a York student has been fabtabulous. Yes, I said fabtabulous, and I guarantee you it'll be in somebody's dictionary in a year or two. It has. It's been exciting, and I want every York student to experience that. We at student government want every York student to get the biggest bang for their buck. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to be engaged and involved outside of the classroom. So we are asking you to join us, be engaged. We are going to engage you. We are going to make you think. And don't go through this by yourself. We are there for you to support you in this endeavor. So, like I said, it is all about you, the students. For the academic year of 2012-2013, we are wishing the best for you. Keep your grades up, stay engaged, and be a part of the process. And in doing so, you will help to make York College and the world a better place. York College student government, enriching lives one student at a time. I bid you peace. Thank you.
That's the kind of energy that we all need and will share with Shirley this year, I know. I want to start out by welcoming our first-year students to their first semester at York College. We are so glad that you have chosen York to begin your academic career. Now, I want to just take a moment or two to explain today's ceremony. When we have Convocation, some of you may be asking, so what's Convocation? I'm already here. What are they doing? Convocation, historically, is a gathering of people for a specific purpose. And colleges and universities use this time to do or recognize the official opening of the college. So even though you've been here a week or so, indeed, we are now officially open for business, so to speak. So again, I want to welcome our newest members to the York Cardinal community. As we move about today, one of the things that we'll be able to do together is we're going to take the first-year pledge, and we're going to sing the alma mater. But I would like to at least give you a few other things to think about. Now, I would like the first-year students to just humor me for a moment and repeat this statement after me. Seeds planted today are tomorrow's harvest. Will you say that with me? Seeds planted today are tomorrow's harvest. So you're probably saying, what is she talking about? That means that you are responsible for the quality of your educational experience. You have joined an academically rich and intellectually stimulating community of learners. Our faculty and staff are poised and ready to assist you in achieving your academic and career goals. But the quality of your educational experience rests on the quality of your investment in creating the kind of experience that you wish. Your investment in your education, or your seeds, are in the control of the quality of your educational experience, your harvest. So I ask that you please commit yourself now to bringing your highest and best self to your academic endeavors. If you're not prepared to give 100% all the time, every time to your coursework, be on time for your classes, be actively engaged in class discussions, ask questions, prepare for your tests, talk with your professors, take advantage of tutoring if you need it, do your assignments, and the list goes on. But these are your seeds. The result, if you do not engage, are inattentiveness, indifference, missed classes, lack of participation, poor preparation, poor grades. All of this adds up to less than a fulfilling educational experience. So hopefully you see where I'm going, because that becomes your harvest. Take full advantage of all that York has to offer. You came here to get a well-rounded quality education, to prepare yourself for a meaningful and fulfilling career. So grab a hold of this opportunity. Make it yours. Do what you have to do to make this become the experience you hoped it would be. And this must include life beyond the classroom. Make time in your schedule to get involved in clubs and organizations. Take advantage of internships and the wonderful research opportunities that await you. Take advantage of community service and study abroad, because study abroad is an excellent opportunity for you to develop the skills necessary to be successful in the global communities that we will inhabit. So one more time, will you say with me, seeds planted today are tomorrow's harvest. Can I hear that again? Seeds planted today are tomorrow's harvest. And now would you join me, if you look in your programs, in saying the first year pledge. It's on the back. And would you please rise as we say the pledge? And if you will just read along with me, I pledge to sincerely commit myself to 5 principles. I will always give my best effort to my coursework and seek assistance when appropriate. I will always uphold the highest ethical standards in everything that I do. I will always pursue opportunities for personal development and civic engagement. I will actively participate in college programs and services. I will always be a devoted and responsible citizen of York College, of my community, and my nation. Do you commit yourself to these principles? If so, say, I do. Thank you. And if we can all stand for the singing of the alma mater. Oh, did I skip something? Oh. You can sit back down. That was just a dry run. The provost is going to come and bring greetings, and thank you again.
Thank you, Vice President Walker Johnson. Before I introduce the new faculty and offer a few remarks, I want to offer a couple of notes of commendation, congratulations. Note of congratulation for promotion to full professor, Donna Chirico from Behavioral Sciences, Michael Flynn from Behavioral Sciences, Dana Fusco from Teacher Education. Note of congratulation for promotion to Associate Professor, Kelly Baker Joseph's English Department. During the past year, Charlene Lane from Health and Physical Education and Gerontological Studies and Carly Geisler from Performing and Fine Arts completed their doctoral degrees and now are doctors Charlene Lane and Carly Geisler. Congratulations. Professor Christina Miller from the library completed her second graduate degree and now, like Charlene and Carly she is an assistant professor. Congratulations. Last but not least in this item, Kristen Davies from Behavioral Sciences has moved from being a doctoral lecturer and she is now an assistant professor. Congratulations, Kristen. Let me just briefly introduce the names and departments of our new faculty. They may all not be here, but I would welcome those who are here standing when their names are called, just so we can have an identification of a face with the name, and we can perhaps give the round of applause collectively at the end. Dr. Claudette McFarker, Associate Professor of Nursing in the Department of Health Professions. I think I saw Claudette someplace. Professor Heather Gibson, Associate Professor in Nursing, Health Professions. Professor Margaret Alexander, Assistant Professor of Nursing in Health Professions. Dr. Joe Tillman, who was here before, is a subclinical professor in teacher education. Professor Nicole Benjamin, clinical professor, subclinical professor in social sciences. Dr. Kevin Mark, sub-assistant professor of chemistry. Professor Mark Adams, substitute lecturer in music, performing and fine arts. And Professor Carol Martin Brown, substitute assistant professor of nursing in health professions. I also want us to acknowledge the arrival recently of Miss Ashley Green, our head coach for women's volleyball. Congratulations, applause for all our colleagues. As President Keizs mentioned, this is not a large group compared to what we were able to recruit 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, much larger. But for me, each of these colleagues is a special contributor to our pursuit of excellence in teaching, research, and service. The Roman philosopher Seneca is credited with having said, "Fortuna est cae fit cum praepatorio in occasionum incidit." Latin for luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. I think Seneca's adage is a valuable one, but it revolves around chance, and it lacks the intentionality that should define the endeavors of men and women who labor in our academic vineyards, whether as professors, students, or staff. And so as we begin this year's academic journey, I recommend intentionality as regards 3 O words: opportunities, ownership, and outcome. My comments are going to be confined to the faculty and staff colleagues, but I would welcome our students also embracing opportunities, ownership, and outcomes. As faculty pursue this year's academic journeys related to teaching and learning, research and service, I encourage intentionality in pondering what might be at least one new course or one new pedagogy you might embrace. Perhaps introduce new rubrics in your course design and delivery. Perhaps plan and later introduce an online course for a subsequent semester. Perhaps introduce something that you learned last year from the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning in relation to strengthening how you engage learning in your classroom. Opportunities for research, of course, abound. Maybe you can complete the draft of an article or a book or a painting or a play. Maybe you can serve not only as a member of a research panel, but as a chair or a commentator at a conference. Maybe you can apply for that external grant that you've been pondering application for a while. Maybe you can apply and present at a provost lecture series. Opportunities in research abound. But in relation to service, there are opportunities as well. Opportunities to become a committee leader and not simply a committee member. Opportunities to extend the perimeter of service beyond your department, to actively engage in pathways, to connect with community organizations, and take your expertise into the community beyond the campus. Perhaps to serve as a student mentor in a student club. Perhaps to serve as a research advisor in undergraduate research. Yet while the identification of the opportunity is necessary for a successful journey, it is not sufficient. Also needed is ownership. We need to take responsibility for actualizing the opportunities. For instance, don't wait for your chair or your dean to provide you with the details of online teaching information. Reach out to Wen Ying, or reach out to a colleague who has taught online, who has taught hybrid, and pursue that opportunity, take the ownership. Rather than simply filing away the email that arrives monthly from Don Hewitt on research opportunities, maybe you can review it for opportunities for you to engage in your grant writing. And you can go speak with Don and actualize the opportunity. Keep in mind, though, that opportunities and ownership will not suffice to complete your journeys. Outcomes also are valid. Outcomes actually are vital. It may be that you don't complete the article, but celebrate completion of the draft as an outcome. It may be that you don't get the grant you applied for, but celebrate having made the application and using the feedback to pursue other grant opportunities. In this respect, in pursuing the outcomes which are vital, sometimes I find it helpful to have a timetable. I find it helpful to engage a mentor, whether at York or outside of York. And if at the end of the journey the outcomes that were desired are not achieved, do not be dejected. Remember that missteps can provide the basis for defining different, if not better, opportunities to pursue to get different, if not better, outcomes. And so, as we journey this year, let us keep in mind that luck might be good, but reliance on luck deprives of the intentionality that should guide our enterprise. Connecting the triple O's, opportunities, ownership, and outcomes, provides that intentionality. Best wishes for a wonderful academic year. Yes, you can give me a round of applause. On behalf of the faculty and staff of your college, we make the following pledge to all of you students. We will match your best effort in your coursework with our own commitment to teaching and learning in and out of the classroom. We too will uphold high ethical standards in our tasks related to teaching and learning, research and service to you, the college, and the community. We will assist you in your efforts at personal and professional development and civic engagement. And we will serve as role models for you as you complete your education at your college and begin life after college. Thank you. Thank you, Howard. I'm delighted now to introduce Mr. Jonathan Quash for a musical interlude. You know, sometimes where you see Jonathan, you see Mark. This is one of those times where you may not see Jonathan, but you certainly see Mark. Professor Mark Adams. Thank you, Professor Mark Adams. Another round of applause for our talented musical faculty. For the benefit of our new colleagues, we are continuing a tradition started 3 years ago, where one of our senior colleagues is named by the President as Convocation Professor for the year. Our inaugural Convocation Professor received a check of $10,000 that he was supposed to give to every subsequent professor, and I leave it to Howard Ruttenberg to pass on, if any is left from that $10,000 check, to the subsequent professors. And my now simply is the pleasure of inviting President Keizs and Professor Ruttenberg to help in the hooding of this year's Convocation Professor, Professor Sonia. After the hooding, Howard will introduce her and she will deliver our keynote speech.
No. I see.
Thank you, President Keizs, Provost Griffith, and the faculty committee led by Professor Sam Hucks for choosing Professor Sonia Rivera Valdez as faculty convocation speaker for fall 2012. I have the privilege of introducing her because Sam Hucks's wife is recovering from knee surgery. The glory of a college is its faculty. Students add glory by demonstrating like faculties, that is, capacities, and by intimating future glories. Administrators help define the faculty and provide them a dwelling place in which to foster their faculties and their students. But to be a college, these glorious faculties must become colleagues, partners in the development of humanity in and through the arts and sciences. All the arts and sciences are the humanities because they are all the work of human imagination and thought. Central among them is literature, which unites the particulars of experience and the abstractions of thought in new visions of the living reality of human beings in action. For there to be a college, students must study literature, and colleagues must know and appreciate the arts and sciences of their colleagues, including the literature they study and produce, if we are to help achieve the humanity of our students. So it is important that today we come to know, or know better, the literary, scholarly, and collegial glories of our colleague from the Department of Foreign Languages, ESL, and Humanities, Professor Sonia Rivera Valdez, who began at York College as an adjunct lecturer in 1978. Since that time, she has contributed to the glory of York College as a teacher loved by her students, as a scholar promoting understanding of Caribbean and Latin American culture, and most especially as an award-winning author of The Forbidden Stories of Martha Veneranda, Stories of Little Women and Grown-Up Girls, and the novel Rosas de Abolengo, due to appear next February. She has won awards and been recognized as both a distinguished and as an influential Latino. How good it is that sometimes the influential be distinguished. How good it is that we have Sonia here at York College and have the chance today to get to know her better. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you Professor Sonia Rivera Valdez.
Well, the first thing, thank you very much, Professor Rothenberg, for this generous presentation. Wonderful. Something. Oh, I have to speak to the micro. And thank you for giving me this position. You know, when I was sitting there, believe me, I was going to say one of the first things that I was preoccupied. I say, everybody who goes there, you know, they have the right size, you know, for the microphone, but what is going to happen with me? Because I know it never happens, but they were very clever. This is, I really appreciate, you know, this, that I can stand, you know, at this height. I feel great. I feel great. Usually, I take the mic and then I go, you know, one side, and today is fantastic. Well, first, I would like to say thank you to everyone who participated in this designation, for which I feel extremely honored. Thank you, President Keizs and Provost Griffith, for selecting me. Thank you to the committee of my colleagues at the Department of Foreign Languages, ESL, and Humanity for my nomination. Thank you to the adjunct professors and to Isman Sang and Elvira Freeman, the office assistants in the department. I know all of them supported my nomination in their hearts. And more important than this, without the sustained effort of the complete team, the department wouldn't be able to assist the students in the constant and efficient way that we do. And thank you to my students who, in many occasions, overcome obstacles that look insuperable in order to pursue their education. Their difficulties have compelled me to find and develop distinct teaching techniques, and indisputably, this has contributed to make me a more appropriate teacher. I would like to pay my respects to Professor Rothenberg and Professor Hawks, who preceded me in the role I now assume, and of course, special thanks to Professor Rothenberg. When I opened the envelope coming from the office of President Keizs, after reading the letter announcing that I had been designated as the Convocation professor for the 2012-2013 academic year, Georgina Herrera's interrogative eyes immediately came to me, as always happened in situations like this. Georgina Herrera, the great Cuban poet, was staying in my apartment during one of her professional visits to New York about 15 years ago, and at the end of a long and intimate conversation, during which we talked about the precarious living conditions I endured in my childhood, and later on, she asked me, Sonia, and how did you manage to earn a PhD and become a writer and a college professor? By a miracle, was my immediate reply. Better yet, by a series of miracles and a lot of work. However, reflecting on my answer some hours later, I realized that it wasn't fair to omit the importance that stories had in shaping my view of the world and instilling in me an unquenchable thirst for knowledge at a very early age. And that mention was important because my parents' devotion to storytelling redeems them, in my feelings, from many unquestionable faults in my upbringing. And today I would like to give you a glimpse of what I meant with my answer to Georgina and my later reflection. Jonathan Gottschall, in his recent book, The Storytelling Animal, says, imagine that in the midst of prehistory, there are just two human tribes living side by side in some African valley. They are competing for the same finite resources. One tribe will gradually die off and the other will inherit the earth. One tribe is called the practical people, and one is called the story people. The tribes are equal in every way except in the ways indicated by their names. The passage goes on, and Gottschall ends it stating, of course, we know how this story ends. The story people prevail. The story people are us. I don't know how true this statement sounds to you. I am positive that my family came directly from the story people lineage. Each family has certain mottos that function as guides through life for their children. Each one of you, once in a while, or even every day, thinks or says, as my mother, or my father, my grandmother used to say, and repeat those phrases you grew up with. These mottos say a lot about the family's philosophy since they reflect life experiences and expectations for the younger generations. In the case of Pablo Picasso, for instance, his mother, according to the famous quote, used to tell him, if you become a soldier, you will be a general. If you become a priest, you will get to be the Pope. Growing up under that augur, the words that Picasso, as an adult, added to his mother were a logical consequence of hers. He used to say, instead of a soldier or a priest, I decided to be a painter, and I became Picasso. My father also had his augurs for me, and two of them were insistently repeated. The first declared, the only true career for a woman is marriage. And the second one, the perfect wife should be like a geisha. I just listened to him without reply, but my mother was so far from behaving and thinking as a geisha and hated the comparison, immediately riposted. Nobody knows her destiny until the day she dies, meaning that her life could, at any unexpected moment, make a turning point. Growing up with a father who thought like mine about women's role in society, and a mother who hated not only being a geisha, but also cooking and waking up early in the morning, especially when it was raining, to send me to school, certainly did not look like the most propitious environment to develop a girl's intellectual and creative abilities. But it is said that God writes straight on crooked lines, and my grandmother on my father's side, the only one that I knew, taught me how to read when in one of her month-long stays in my house, she realized that I was already 6 years old and had never been in school. I learned, and very soon I was reading or trying to read. It did not matter if I understood that, what I read or not, any readable thing with letters on it that I could find in my house. And there was a lot. I do not remember any reaction on my parents' side, either positive or negative, to my recently acquired semi-literacy. Grandma taught me how to read, but not how to write. I guess my mother was happy about the hours I spent every day sitting by my grandma. My father was a cigar maker, and cigar factories had, and still have in some places, a person who reads to the workers while they hand roll the cigars. This lector, reader, used to read newspapers in the morning and classic or well-known novels in the afternoon. When the reader finished the book, he sold it to the workers for a very low price. We had a lot of those books at home, and I guess my father got others at the bookstores, since we possessed so many, including Elarou's dictionary that I read assiduously. Many nights after dinner, and even during dinner, my father recounted in a meticulous and vivid way what he heard from the Reader's Factory that day. Sometimes, when he didn't begin the story spontaneously, my mother would ask for it. One Friday, the day my father received his weekly salary, he came home with a book that he bought specially for me. Corazón in Spanish, heart in English, cuore in Italian, written by Edmondo de Amicis. And that was it. The book not only captivated me, but it took me to another dimension. Reading it, I felt that by getting involved in those characters' problems, I could forget mine for a while. Edmondo de Amicis book was the first one I read in which the protagonist was a child. Reading hard, I realized that I was not the only one in the world who suffered because of economic and family problems. And believe me, that was of great consolation. I didn't learn how to write until by chance, in one of our frequent changes of residence, we met a neighbor who had school in her living room. She instructed by herself 10 or 12 students from different elementary grades. Since she charged only 50 cents a week, and the school was just 2 blocks from our house, my mother began to send me with certain regularity. We moved again, and one of those rainy days in which she didn't wake me up for school, living in a tenement house in Old Havana, some few months after I had learned how to write, I wrote my first short story. I wrote it in some shiny sheets of paper that my mother kept in a drawer. I still don't know what that paper was for, but I remember how difficult it was writing on its slippery surface. My story, let's say it was a recreation, since I ignored that something called plagiarism existed, of my dearest fairy tale, because that same mother who didn't send me to school regularly and was unable to cook the salted codfish stew that I begged her to make, preparing a thick sauce of tomatoes, olive oil, olives, and capers, that mother was an excellent and talented storyteller, a very creative one who remade the endings of the Charles Perrault book she had read to give me inspirational stories where girls and women always ended up alive and well. Unless it was one of her really bad days, my mother was willing to pull out a story of her ample repertoire and perform a tale for me every time I asked her to do it. She was proud of that and taking me to the movie since I was 40 days old. I went to the movies. My first short story was an adaptation of The Fairy, one of Perrault's folk tales, to my Havana's environment. Many years later, when I read the original story, I couldn't believe how politically incorrect it is from almost every angle you take it. It is seriously misogynist story. But in my childhood, what I heard and I took from it was the only positive value it contains. If you behave unselfishly, life will reward you. That was what my private performer, my mother, emphasized and made relevant every time she told me the story. I wrote my remaking of The Fairy at the beginning of the summer of 1945. I was almost 8 years old. From then on, I began to register by myself in the closest public school that I found in any new address we had, until we moved to Santa Fe, a town 40 minutes from Old Havana on the north coast of the province. I am, just the glimpse, I am editing the glimpse, to make it shorter. When I was 16 years old, I had read Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Gogol, Gorky, Turgenev, Balzac, Flaubert. I was fanatic about Daphne du Maurier, Emily Bronte, Somerset Maugham, and Oscar Wilde. I had read Charlotte Bronte, Curcio Malaparte, Henry Barbusse, Louise May Alcott, etc., etc. I knew at that time most of the famous Latin American women poets, especially those whose poetry advocated for women's freedom, like Alfonsina Storni, Juana di Barburo, and Dolmira Agostini. Their poems, in my mother's voice, were my lullabies. I like all my mother's stories. However, my best love was her own life story. But in rare occasions, she felt inclined to tell me about that. Still, she used to mention her past on days that she felt worse than usually. My mother never knew who her parents were. She was left in an orphanage when she was 2 years old. A 68-year-old Asturian man took her to his house when she was 6 years old. He never adopted her legally. That's why she kept the last name they gave her in the orphanage, Valdez. And she lived with him until he died. She was 18 years old by then and went to live with my father. And my father, who left his house when he was 13 years old due to problems with his father, began to work as a cigar maker, and he proudly affirmed that since that age, not only that he always had a woman with him, but he always was able to support her. And now, what did I learn from those convulsed early years? How did life circumstances influence my adult life on the personal and professional aspects? I didn't learn anything in kindergarten because I never went. But I have learned that some things that my parents said and did were wrong, and others right. My parents' avidity for reading and storytelling, their insatiable desire for knowledge, and their strong personalities in conjunction with many other factors. Remember, I am giving you just a glimpse of this story. Develop the 3 principles that guide my life as a writer, as a teacher, and as a human being. I try to be true to myself. And notice that I say, I try. I try to do what I decide to do with passion. And I never forget that others exist, even if I have never seen them. Antonio Machado, the Spanish poet, has a copla that says, el ojo que ves no es ojo porque tú lo ves, es ojo porque te ve. The eye you see is not an eye because you see it. It is an eye because it sees you. Others exist. And the energy that my students often say that I put in my classes and I transmit to them comes from these 3 principles. And because I live with them and through them, besides to instruct them and accomplish the objectives stated in a syllabus, I attempt to educate them as whole human beings. I do not mind what subject I am teaching. I try to make my students aware, for instance, that in the world, not only there are almost 1 billion illiterate people, there are children who don't know what is a book for. I have known them. And while some people in this society are expecting to be frozen after death, waiting for immortality, millions of children in this world, and some of them in this society, are striving just to have enough food to be able to grow up. And what is my goal making my students think about these unpleasant realities? I like them to be mindful. I don't like them to say at the end of a documentary that shows a terrible situation, I have to count my blessings for not being there. and then go get a beer or a glass of wine and speak about football, or even worse, about the phone they got that day, and not make one single comment on the documentary they saw 30 minutes ago. We have to count our blessings. Surely we have to be grateful for every good thing that life gives us. But our existence is like a tapestry that is embroidered between us and life. We are constantly working on that tapestry, and each act of your existence is a stitch you are adding to the tapestry. And your stitches can contribute to make the tapestry pattern richer and more beautiful. Or, working inadvertently, you can be destroying some good design that other people or nature made. I have a dream. I dream that my students, when they are in any position in which they have the capacity to make decisions that will have repercussions on other people, follow the great law of the Iroquois Confederacy. It stipulated that in every deliberation, they consider the impact of their decision on the next 7 generations. Thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you for your attention. Thank you very much to everybody. Now, let me thank you. I have to go to my...
Thank you, Sonia. Wonderful words of wisdom. On the way out, you'll get a copy of the text of Sonia's address. I'm delighted now to introduce, please be seated, Professor Jonathan Quash, who is also director of our Men's Center, to lead us in the singing of the Alma Mater. And when he is ready, we will all stand. Shall we stand, please? It's at the back of the program.
Hail your college, proudly we see York as the star of the city university. So here we stand to pledge by your name to bring our college glory, honor, and fame. From all corners of the world, from our rich diversity, in our common quest for truth, we have formed a family. Though we may be far away, yet our hearts are ever near to the school we hold so dear. Hail your college, proudly we see York as the star of the city university. So here we stand to pledge by your name to bring our college glory, honor, and fame. Though the road was often rough, we worked hours late and long. When the going seemed too tough, we strove harder to be strong. Now we made it here at last. We can hold our head up high. We can spread our wings and fly. Hail your college, proudly we see York as the star of the city university. So here we stand to pledge by your name to bring our college glory, honor, and fame.
Thank you, Jonathan. Please remain standing in preparation for the recessional. Before we leave with the recessional, just want to thank all the colleagues who were involved in preparing for this 2012 convocation. I want to encourage you to find a few minutes at the reception afterwards to mingle with colleagues, introduce yourselves to new colleagues and staff, and have a wonderful year. But as we embark on our wonderful year, I'd like to remind you of one of my favorite quote from Michelangelo. What Michelangelo said was this: "The greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim high and miss our goals, is that we aim low and reach them." And I'd like to encourage all of us, as we think of opportunities, ownership, and outcomes for this year, as we think of the goals that will go with those, remember Michelangelo. Thank you.